Welcome back to Arifureta Anime Review episode number 11. This one discussing the 19th episode of the series, which is called Someone Important. Yep, this is from pages 222 to 250 of the book. We're still almost done with chapter 2. Because I was reading this, I'm like, man, it didn't cover a lot this time. Only covered like 28 pages. I'm like, damn, that's not much. There's the ending in here, which it's kind of weird. I think it's from the epilogue from book 4. I'm not really sure because I didn't look at book 4. Okay, so mostly we pick up right where we left off last week, where we do in fact still use the light novel dialogue in this episode, which I do appreciate that. So basically, Hajime tells Corey to get a decision, basically made if she wants to stay or basically go back. And then they just walk off. Of course, she's not going to answer just yet until much later in the episode. So they hop on. He picks her up and hops up one of the ships. This time, a different scene this time. Not a big battle, but a aftermath. Now, there is some small little bits cut from this scene here. Yes. Now, what happens in this scene is mostly accurate. They do cut a lot. They do cut chunks of dialogue from the scene. Yes, mostly it's from the people who actually are at the party. The guy who's talking seems to be some kind of king. And mostly when it comes to his dialogue, they don't really change. I think they change a couple words of his dialogue. There is a mysterious woman in white that Hajime sees. Now, they do in fact cut. There's actually a big thing they do cut from the scene, and that's Corey overreacting to all the horror here. Here, it just basically, she just doesn't overreact. And Hydra basically, the book was trying to calm down. This was probably the only thing major they cut from this whole episode. Which I'm like, okay. There is other chunks Stella cut a little bit later, but that's the only big chunk to come from this whole episode was Corey, was basically her panicking. And her, like, crying for her mom. Her wanting to see her best friend again. Yeah, that part was cut. Probably due to the fact they probably didn't want to show the character looking weak. That's probably my guess. You can have her be not very happy with this particular thing, but her overreacting the way she does in the book, yeah, it's kind of good the fact they cut that. Now, this guy who's there talks like it's been years the peace treaty was signed. Of course, Corey does point out very accurately. It seems like basically a celebration of a peace treaty. Of course, like a lot of her dialogue that Corey says is right on point. Hydra agrees with like everything she says. So he speaks his dialogue like, oh yeah, it's like. Now they do cut small little bits of his conversation out here. Like I would say a couple of sentences, but mostly puts a pretty accurate representation of his speech. Oh yeah, it's been years since the peace treaty was signed. He realized how foolish he's been, so he orders pretty much all the guests, all the non-humans. Yes, all the beastmen and demons be massacred on the ship. And we see flying arms, legs, even a flying head. Like, wow. Now you might be curious though. Was the graphic detail in the book? No. No, it was not. It just basically was mentioned this happened. They do witness this scene. It's very horrific. And I'm glad the fact the writer does not go into detail about this because it's a massacre. Of course, basically, stuff like this happened. So, and then pretty much after that, they see them seriously walk into it because they have to go source the ship. They walk this ship, and then, of course, they get pulled back thanks to a gust of wind. There's a little bit down before that. They do cut here. It's like small chunk here. I'd say about a few sentences cut here. And, of course, she uses the soldiers. Now, there's a little bit of Corey before this, before she's seen with Hydra after she gets blown away. Or she's briefly talking to somebody, and then she meets with Hydra. They cut that here. Time. Probably due to time. Despite the fact they only adapt like 29 pages. Yeah, roughly it's only 29 pages, which is not a lot. They probably had a very short period of time to basically adapt this. They probably had to do this one scene here. So, yeah. Oh, I think I may have forgot something here. Yeah, I think I may have forgot something. Hang on. It wasn't 20 pages. I was remembering something, basically. Yeah, I'm just remembering I forgot something here that there's actually a lot more to the chapter they did adapt here. Because I was thinking they did that much, but basically they did have a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry about this, basically. I'm just remembering I just forgot something here. Okay, so it wasn't necessarily... Okay, I was actually wrong about that. It didn't adapt basically 222, 250, but it basically adapted the rest of the chapter. That's pretty much what they adapted here. Yeah, I completely forgot that. I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, there was a scene there. They actually do cut some stuff out of that scene, which... Time. Yes, I completely forgot that. That's my fault on my part doing that. Hopefully it doesn't happen again next week. So, like, right after they of course, he ends up shooting her. They do change dialogue here for this thing where he ends up shooting her. In the book, he said it was pellets he was shooting with. In the anime, he was saying he was shooting with magic bullets. He said it wouldn't harm her, which, yeah, it would. I'm not really sure why they changed the wording here for this one. I'm not really sure why. Eventually, the ghost does leave, and of course, you mentioned someone important to him. And then, of course, she, like, thanks him by kissing him, which is very brief, which they kind of do show it. She does kind of kiss him, like, slightly, like, I think in the book they mentioned it was, like, full on the lips. In the anime, it definitely did happen, so they do cut the bit out, basically, it was her first kiss. But the kiss did happen, yep. And then, of course, basically, after talking for a bit, she agrees she basically decides to stay. And she says a lot of this basically in the book. And then Hydra picks her up, carries the magic circle, and goes, oh, there's Shia, Yo, and Tio. Slight change of lineup here, which in the book, it was basically said was Yo, Shia, and Tio. In the anime, the lineup is Tio, Yo, and Shia. I don't think that anyone would complain about the change of lineup basically appears on that platform. It's fine from my perspective. And then, of course, they have the conversation bit, which they do cut some chunks out of here, which they mentioned the whole thing about, well, going to Japan. That part was cut here for some reason. I would have thought that would be interesting to keep in here, but nope. They mentioned about the kiss and the fact they'd be jealous. And then, of course, we see Malene, I believe her name is. She actually was a character who appeared in Freya Zero. I remember her appearing, I think it was book 2 or 3, I think it was, that she appeared on the cover. And they do bring up in the book she's like Dagoon, like Mayu is. In the anime, they don't bring that up for some reason. Not really sure why. It's like everything was very brief, grabs the piece. And then, of course, the whole area is basically about to go in the water. The Yo transforms into a rock, gets covered with tidal wave. We have a giant jellyfish. They have the jelly thing again. And basically, now, they don't say in the anime, they cut some more bits of dialogue here, where you have Corey mentioning about she cast a spell. Here, she's automatically cast it. Because, well, she's not at least being asked to do this, which I do appreciate that. And they says, of course, I think it was Hydra mentioning that he was going to give a right oxygen mask, which they actually don't have them do that in the anime. He mentioned he couldn't have time to summon the submarine. So they pretty much from the bubble. And then, of course, they do change the name of the fish. Of course, they've heard him in the book as Fish Son. In the anime, it's Lee Son. Not really sure why they did that for. I think that was his name in the anime. So he comes in, it gives him like 3 minutes, and what does he do? What's Hydra do? Basically summons a bunch of torpedoes, which ends up poisoning the fish. And then, of course, they all leave. Of course, Juice's the wife later. And then we cut to back to the capital. We see Susuna, who details that Anko has gone miss, who basically went to the Divine Mountain for some reason. We have Meld coming. He's actually the captain, who is usually the one working with them, with the characters. The hero is not here. Yeah, if you're curious, still, Dynamic cut out where the heck he was this episode. No, he simply was not here. He was not mentioned in the chapter, so I don't know exactly where this was. It could be from a later book. And then, of course, where they mentioned that Lily's gone missing too. So, and they mentioned that other people got missing, along with Lily's guard, like Anko's guards got missing too. So, and then the episode's quite interestingly with Anko in a cell being knocked out, where she's told by the nun that she's inconvenienced, but her student is basically somebody that it should be worried about. And that's how the episode ends. Quite interesting ending there. I'm glad the fact the anime did not forget about Anko. I mean, she was just kidnapped just last episode. So I do appreciate the anime remembered. Oh yeah, she was kidnapped. I don't know where this was. Honestly, I was rereading the book. I didn't see that in the book. Maybe I tried to look later on the book. It could have happened in chapter 3. I'm not really sure, but you could definitely say this episode, yes, it finished up chapter 2. So, excuse me. Yeah, it took a bit basically to finish this chapter. Yeah, it took 3 episodes, which I think was about the same amount they did for chapter 1. You're just thinking, wow, that's interesting. Yeah. After spending three episodes in chapter 1, we now have 3 episodes in chapter 2 of this book. And do I think that chapter 3 of the book, which by the way, we're in book 5 still, do I think we'll take 3 episodes again? Let's see. If you're curious though, chapter 2 was 120 chapters, and they adapted this for roughly 3 episodes. Probably a good amount of episodes there. Chapter 3 is roughly 32 pages. So, that could take up next episode. It's possible. Do I think the epilogue will be adapted for this one? Next episode, it's possible, to say the least, which means possibly by episode... I don't think the 7th episode of the season. No, I think probably by the 8th episode, we're finally going to start adapting book 6. And that's probably where I got left off here. I've heard suggestion the season is going to be about 12, 13 episodes. Honestly, I'm not sure how long it's set for. Let's see. I don't think they actually announced exactly how long the season's supposed to last for. It could be 13 episodes. I'm not sure. They didn't say if it was. No, not really. Oh, they did announce. It was actually announced just recently. Just yesterday, it was announced that Leela, the Princess of the Kingdom, is going to be voiced by Bria Knickerbocker. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I love that. The fact that she's basically going to do it. Which makes this possibly the first Funimation dub she's worked on. Because if you look at her, basically her catalog, she's mostly done a lot of, well, not Viz Media, more like Aniplex or Crunchyroll dubs. She's done one Netflix dub, Seven Deadly Sins. Mostly put just a lot of other dubs. Funimation is probably the first one I can think of she's ever done. Yeah. Yeah, it has been confirmed she's going to be voicing Lola S.B. who is the Princess of the Kingdom. Yep, I'm looking forward to watching that first episode dubbed. Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, though. She's going to be voiced by Bria Knickerbocker. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, but not much else to say about this episode. It's pretty good. I think they did a pretty good job pacing-wise. Yes. And, yeah, there's roughly 1 chapter left plus an epilogue. So, like I said, do I think that they're going to finish adapting this book with the next episode? It's possible they might do that. Yes, it's possible. Do I think they're probably going to start with the 8-episode season, which would be a 22nd episode of the series? That's probably where... Actually, no, probably the 21st episode of the series. Probably where they're going to start adapting book 6. And I'm hoping, really hoping, they don't do 2 episodes with this one like they did with book 2, like they did with the first season of the show. Yeah, only 2 episodes to cover roughly a book that's not that long. Yes. I'm not really sure why they did that for. I think maybe the reason why that the pacing is better when it comes to this season, and this is my personal guess, that the pacing for is better is because they changed directors. Yes, that's probably the reason why that happened. Yes, that's probably the reason why that the pacing is actually a lot better with this season than it is with the last season. Where if you look at it so far, We're only 6 episodes into the season so far, and we're not even done book 1 yet. The first book we're done for the season, which is book 5. Book 1 was out for 5 episodes. This book has so far taken up 6 episodes this season, which this probably means that the director is probably reading the book. Yes, may take chunks out, but he probably listened to all the complaints, and probably also the writer of the book is probably going to be involved with the actual series itself. Very much a consulting, but probably told him, hey, try to make sure we actually make my books basically more breeding time. That's probably what he probably suggested. Also, was announced recently that the light novel series is going to be ending soon. Yep. The main series is the next book, which is supposed to come out in July. That's going to be the last book official release for the series. And for the prequel series, it's ending at book 6. Which, okay, interesting. I'm going to get the rest anyway. So, yeah. So, would I review these books? No. I have no plans to at all. Yep. So, yeah. So, that's particularly it for this particular review. I might have to do one more video tonight that I'll probably review for the movie for Gogo V, and that'll probably be it for this evening. Yep. So tomorrow, probably Case of Vanitos and more Super Sentai stuff. I also got Comic Corn I'm going to do later on today. If I get time to do Gogo V, I'm going to do the Comic Corn. I'll probably be it for today. Okay, next video. Bye.